Hey friends, welcome to Terra Symbolica. Subscribe, please. I beg you. Got a special morning this morning on, what date is it today? Is it the 23rd of April?
23rd of April, yeah.
23rd of April. Last night there was a fantastic exhibition here, artistic one, called Aniontes at the StirrUp Gallery in Marrickville, which is sponsored by Unity in Philia, which is a not-for-profit organisation based in Athens in Greece, but it sponsors a cultural sort of dialogue between Greece and Australia. It's engaged in cultural diplomacy and the exchange of thought and friendship for the most part. Unity in Philia has sponsored this exhibition Aniontes, along with, and I've picked up a book that they've recently published because otherwise I'll get the title wrong, the Sydney branch of the International Society of Friends of Nikos Kazantzakis, the great Cretan early 20th century philosopher, essayist, journalist, and novelist as well. The main curator of this exhibition is here, Dr Vassilis Adrahtas.
Hi friends of Terra Symbolica.
Who you know from our conversation on the search for meaning for God, search for the sacred. The search for the sacred is a professor of religious studies at the University of Western Sydney University, and is engaged in many intellectual endeavours, artistic ones, both nationally here in Australia and internationally as well. And I'm just going to turn over to him so that he can speak a little bit about this exhibition and what it means.
Yes, now as Mario said, the title of the exhibition is Aniontes. It's a very enigmatic word which we find in the work on mystical theology by Saint Dionysius the Areopagite, or the Pseudo-Areopagite, perhaps the most important figure in Byzantine mystical theology. Now, Aniontes means those ascending, those going upwards, and it resonates and it characterizes very much, it encapsulates the gist of Saint Dionysius theology. So based on this concept, the whole exhibition has been structured to show the Aniontes mentality, the ascending mentality, as the basic perspective of Kazantzakis on his own, but also in relationship to a number of spiritual figures with whom he was in dialogue throughout his life. We know that Kazantzakis went through phases of spiritual development, and each phase was in a way, let's say, conspicuously impacted by a certain figure, be that Christ, the Buddha, Lenin, Nietzsche, Bergson, Odysseus, and so forth. So that's basically what this whole exhibition of artworks by Associate Professor Ouresis Todorovich is trying to convey and reflect. It's of course a very special special exhibition in the sense that it shows the way that Ouresis Todorovich struggles with Kazantzakis, reads Kazantzakis, and takes this reading into the visual work of art. Now, there are certain of the works that, have a very, let's say, pointed and poignant at the same time symbolism. For instance, one of them is this, which is the depiction of Nikos Kazantzakis. Now, this, for those who might know, is a work that is based on a famous black and white photograph of Kazantzakis back in, I think, 1943, and in the middle of the German occupation at Greece, Kazantzakis was living on the island of Aegina, and he was starving, of course, but despite, you know, these problems of survival, he took on to write a huge work, the Greek-French dictionary of his, huge. And we have this photograph of him writing, you know, the dictionary, and this is more or less the structure of the photograph. But now it's not a black and white photograph, it's an artwork. Now, Kazantzakis is depicted now as a Byzantine, and basically as an evangelist. Of course, the halo, as you can see, is black because he is an anti-evangelist. He's an alternative. He's a different kind of evangelist. Now, of course, the book in front of him is his work, his oeuvre, as a kind of alternative, new gospel. Now, another thing, interesting thing, is that the pen should be in his right hand, as it is in the photo, but it's suspended over his left hand. So with which hand is he writing? Basically, he's not writing with his hand, he's writing with his mind. That's why his head is tilted, and he, in a way, moves the pen. It's the nous that writes, not the hands. Another interesting feature here is that, okay, a Byzantine Kazantzakis would look like this, but at the same time it's a cartoon, a caricature, a comics sort of depiction of Kazantzakis. And a third layer of artistic sort of technique is the way that Ouresis Todorovich is playing with the ink. Because he now teaches in China, he is experimenting with the long tradition of ink painting. And you can see the face of Kazantzakis, he has something Asian, but the strokes of ink at the same time are very reflective, you know, and sort of, you know, telling of this new phase in his artistic career. So a Byzantine cartoon-like Asian Kazantzakis as the evangelist of a new gospel in the modern, postmodern era. That's some of the symbolism of this one.
Wow, just phenomenal. Tell us about
this one. This one is again about the concept, the basic concept of the exhibition. It's yet ascending higher. We see here a stretched out mountain, very much according to the Byzantine tradition. Yeah,
the back of icons.
The way rocks are depicted.
Yeah.
Now this one is quite, you know, exaggerated in a sense and abstract, in order to show, of course, this stretching out and stretching up. So deliberately it's done in a way to bring out these features of an ancient iconographic motif. Now, we see here that the mountain, the rock stretching up, is bluish. It looks like an iceberg. Blue, of course, is the color of spirituality. So it is the human spirit. And you can imagine, of course, it's an abstract, you know, depiction. You can imagine the mountain stretching up as a human with two hands stretching up.
So interesting.
Yeah, two hands stretching up. So
an axis mundi as well.
Yes, of course, that's good. Axis mundi. It's the nature human combination, you know, and conflation, even merging here. Now, although this looks like a cold iceberg, the painting is not cold. Doesn't bring out anything cold. No, because it has this stark contrast of the background. So the background balances the iceberg effect. So it comes out more as a warm and welcoming figure than a cold one.
That's so interesting. You know, the blue as a color that indicates divinity is something that we see on Christ's vestments a lot, as the Pandokrator.
Yeah, a lot.
It's the blue taking on the red, which is the earthy blood, human. It symbolizes, or at least this is the way that we were taught it as undergrads, divinity and humanity within Christ.
Yeah.
But also in the very famous Anastasis fresco in the Church of the Holy Saviour in Hora in Constantinople, Istanbul, you see when Adam and Eve are being taken by Christ into their mandorla, into his mandorla, which signifies the mystery of their transformation in light of his presence. The mandorla gets to darker shades of blue as it gets closer to his body, and their arms, the garments on Adam and Eve's arms are changing into blue as well. So that all came to me as you were speaking. I thought I'd share it. I'll put the image of the Anastasis.
No, it's very good, and we should keep in mind that this bluish color is actually, according to the testimonies of people within the Orthodox tradition that have an experience of seeing divine light, that it's bluish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
it's bluish. It's like you when you see a clear sky, a clear blue sky. So the divine light, has a color.
Wow. All right. Okay.
So this color, and the darker it becomes, it has in its own respect has a significance, because it can be quite light but quite dark, bordering to black, which is gonophos, cloud of unknowing. We will see that in another painting with another work, but as we saw before with Kazantzakis, and as we will see with other artworks by Uros, the blue color is very, very prominent in his works.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we have one of his sort of older works, which is the Fall. We see the primeval couple, the archetype couple of Adam and Eve, the serpent, dragging them within this, opening of a gorge. Wow. The world is going, crazy. This swirl here, this sort of thing. It's a painting, I think, that brings out bewilderment and confusion, perhaps a bit of despair. The faces, if you come closer, you will see there is some, sort of despair there. It's very existentialist as a painting. It's an existentialist form.
This abyss represented here,
it
always brings Nietzsche to mind, which is important in connection to Kazantzakis, whose doctoral dissertation was on Nietzsche, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So, that famous aphorism, do not chase after monsters lest you become a monster, and if you stare into the abyss stares back.
Yeah.
Well, Adam did stare into the abyss through that primordial transgression, Adam and Eve, and here the abyss is not only, it's about to swallow them. Very Lovecraftian as well, H.P. Lovecraft explored
that's a good comment,
depth of the abyss, drawing people who are stumbling or staggering into it. Look, there was another thing as well. I'm just going to ask you about it. I don't remember the context in which the late Archbishop of Greek Orthodox Archbishop of Australia, Stylianos, mentioned avison apokalite as well. Abyss calls into abyss. Can that be applied here, do you think, or is it too...
Perhaps it's too psalmist.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, I
Two
think so.
psalmists,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But another thing here is that the figures, as if flying, they are helpless and they are trying to balance themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they have nowhere to stand anymore. There's no solid ground. Everything has been swept away.
Yeah.
So there's lots of layers of meaning here. The fall is not an actual falling. It's more of a sense of falling, because there is no meaning, there is no ground to stand on, and you're just trying to balance yourself. And it's very interesting, very, very interesting, that the two figures are back to back. They don't have eye contact, which brings us, brings to our minds that very famous dictum by a monk of the eastern, deserts, that when he was asked, what is hell like, and it's like, two people standing back to back and not being able to see one another.
Wow, yeah.
So here, the fall is in a way a pre-taste of hell, of hell as a mode of existence.
Wow. There's also you can see it now that you've pointed it out. It's this mutual solipsism on the parts of both Adam and Eve, this separation from the other, who according to Martin Buber and others, the only way we can know ich is du, is with the other. The only way I can know myself is in relationship to the other. And that's that whole existentialist trend that runs through contemporary Greek Orthodox Trinitarian thought as well, Vassilios and others. But another thing that this could point to as well is the mutual scapegoating that Adam and Eve do to one another when God finds them in the garden and asks, what have you done? Adam says, the woman you gave me, the same woman that he was pining over, I don't have a helper. Now this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Now that he blames her for having given him the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden fruit to participate in, that symbol for the participation in an object of desire that ensnares one, which could have been each other, he blames her, and she then blames the serpent. So now there's this primordial, prideful scapegoating of the other, and perhaps they resent one another as well.
Absolutely.
Perhaps, but he still carries her.
He carries her. He cannot. He's stuck. He's stuck with her, and she is stuck with him. That's even worse, because if you are alone, you are alone. But if you know that you are with someone, but alone, that's even worse. Now another thing is the colors. You have this sort of yellowish, which is a very earth color, but it connotes sulfur.
Yep.
So it's like smoke coming up, which leads us to another biblical allusion, which is Sodom and Gomorrah. So this is a very biblical work. Lots of layers from Genesis, lots of layers there.
I love it. And still, perhaps in God's presence, the light.
There's still, there's a hue here, which is, the divine presence, is always there. There's always hope.
I love this painting.
I
really love it.
It's very nice. It's very nice and powerful. This is one of the figures we have decided to put into the exhibition with Uros, because it's Sri Aurobindo, the famous modern Indian mystical thinker. Now, we decided to put this portrait, which again is based on a very famous black and white portrait of Sri Aurobindo as a young man sitting on a chair.
Wow.
Now, as you can see, why did we put it here first? Because Sri Aurobindo knew the work of Kazantzakis. Knew basically his Odyssey. Sri Aurobindo wrote a big poem himself, not as big as the Ouresis of Kazantzakis, but big nevertheless, called Savitri. Savitri is a heroine, a girl from the Mahabharata, great epic. It's important because we will see that further down, the exhibition, she comes up again. Now, again, the blue light, he's in a sense within a mandorla. He's Christ-like because although he was Indian, he was very much, educated in the West, and he was influenced by the Western, categories and ways of thinking. And if I were to, put him in a very short definition, who is Sri Aurobindo? Sri Aurobindo is the advocate of Advaita Vedanta, a very monistic, contemplative school of Indian thought, is that put into action, into everyday life. He took the Indian tradition and he wanted to make it part of the world, the everyday life, make it relevant for a modern world. So in this sense, I think he's very much about the very active sort of mentality that also we see in Kazantzakis. Now you see here, one hand is more or less like a proper hand. The other one is like a sort of, phantom hand.
Okay, yes.
Now, it's because he's transformed. I mean, he is human, but at the same time, he has, let's say, a participation in divinity. He has reached a certain, in a certain sense, he has reached in enlightenment. He has reached the samadhi.
Yes.
So these two hands show his dual
you see that in the
constitution
face as well. I mean, you can't help but think of the St. Catherine's icon of Christ Pandokrato in relation to the way the eyes are, one's offset. One's a little bit.
He's Christ-like.
Yeah, I thought it was Jesus when he walked down. I said, is that Christ? You're like, no, it's Aurobindo. And the transformation of his hand.
But it's very interesting. It's very interesting because from a theological point of view, it's on the part of Uros as an artist, it's let's say a declaration that the church, the borders of the church, are much more, much wider than we think. There might be people, members of the church that are not in the formal limits of the church,
Absolutely.
But they are spiritually within the church.
Absolutely. This is something that we see with St. Justin Martyr's Law Spermatikos. It's something that the Second Vatican Council also pronounced upon as well, that the Spirit of God blows where it wills. So, this is...
And we have, sorry
yes,
for interrupting, Mario, but we have this very ingenious, I would say, Catholic theologian, Raymond Panicard, who developed a theology of religions, and he specifically espouses the idea, of a universal church that has members that they don't even know that they are members.
Well, that's exactly right.
Because they've never, thought of it in terms of formal, membership.
That's right.
So
it's that
Christ-like. He participates, in the goodness, the beauty, the charismatic way of life that Christ inaugurated.
Yes.
Even though he was never formally a member of the church.
Yes.
But he knew, he was educated in the West, he knew the Christian scriptures, he revered and he really respected, Christianity.
Yeah.
And he tried to make his own religious tradition as Christian through action, transforming
Which is
the
a
world
very Christian
as
trait.
much, as much as he could.
Yeah, excellent. This is, for me, very insightful. I did not know of him. So, this was very striking from both the images, that promotional material that you've been putting out there.
It's a masterwork.
I love it. Could you please give I'll get just a little bit further back so that I can take in the whole thing and yourself.
This is called Anóteros rhythmos, a higher rhythm of living, of being. This is the Anóteros, the higher rhythm that Kazantzakis espouses through his works and realized in his life. It can be read in many ways. One of them is that Kazantzakis is presented as an ascetic within the earth, within a cave.
Wow.
Now the cave, which is the past, is ancient Greece, because this is the column.
It's the drums of columns.
The drums, of columns. So he is in a cave as an ascetic, as a Christian ascetic, but an ascetic who has his roots in ancient Greek, ancient civilization. Now he stretches out, and he goes through Byzantium, these stretched mountains which are very typical of iconography. Yeah. This is Byzantium. This is the second phase of Hellenism. And then we have the red, scourging, hell-like sun of modernity.
Oh my gosh.
So modernity is not a nice place. Modernity is a theory, it's a furnace. It burns you.
Yeah.
But because God is dead in modernity.
That's right. So that's Nietzsche.
You've started with a spiritual journey and stretching out, yearning, and you find yourself with a sun which is scourging this. But the blue, and according to the Byzantine tradition, from the left side coming down, the divine light, the uncreated light.
It pierces through the fire.
It pierces.
Yeah.
Hope is always present.
Yeah.
God is always present within his absence. So Kazantzakis experienced this, even it was little, even if it was just a bit. But a bit of God is enough.
Is enough. His own asceticism is perhaps underscored here as well. I love the description that you made of him as a kind of a desert dweller.
Yeah.
He himself was forced to live in austerity. Which book did he write while he was only eating meager portions of bread day by day? Do you remember this anecdote?
I don't remember the anecdote, but I suppose many of his works were written in that manner.
Wow.
Yeah, in that manner. So he's holding his entire oeuvre.
Yeah.
So he is an ascetic, but at the same time he's an author.
Yes, and this we have to make the connection.
Yeah.
That sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No.
that writing is an ascetical discipline and exercise, often forgotten in contemporary monastic milieux in the East. In the West, they have their own tradition.
Absolutely.
But if it wasn't for the Byzantine monastic copyists and the copyists in the West, the Benedictine monks and others, we wouldn't have Homer's Iliad and Odyssey and everything else. The manuscript tradition, the act of copying out texts and memorizing them was something that was considered a spiritual discipline. Yeah. Excellent. Amazing.
Now, this is a very naturalistic representational painting.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, which shows, the artistic sort of caliber of Uros. It's Gnosi, the personification of Gnosi, knowledge, who at the same time symbolizes the library of Alexandria. These are the flames, which destroyed the library, but at the same time it's the flame, and the spirit of knowledge. So although physical fire might seem like destroying knowledge, knowledge is a fire in itself, so powerful that it cannot be destroyed. And at the same time, this woman connotes the figure, alludes to the figure of the last Neoplatonic woman philosopher, Hypatia, who was murdered in Alexandria. So her story, the notion, the ideal of knowledge, and the physical space of knowledge, Alexandria as a center of culture and education, all converge.
You know, this brings a lot of images to my mind, because Hypatia, the beautiful erudite philosopher, whose tragic death at the hands of Christian fundamentalists, the Paravalani, is something that was utilized in the culture wars between the Enlightenment scholars, Voltaire onwards, through Gibbon, down to Carl Sagan, contemporary popular physicists, against Roman Catholicism specifically, encapsulated or perhaps exemplified by the person of Cyril of Alexandria, who was bishop of the city when she was killed. But friends, please let me make this point, because I love Hypatia, and it's not a matter of trying to denigrate what this poor woman suffered at the hands of lunatics, but not all Christians were lunatics, So if you have a mob in one corner of the city, that's not representative of the diverse strata of Christian, true Christian believers, of intellectuals like Synesius of Cyrene, and of Cyril. It happened during Cyril's tenure, but even though he was blamed, according to one near contemporary account, Socrates of Constantinople, for Hypatia's death, we actually don't have any evidence that he himself knew about Hypatia, that he endorsed her murder. So, and I say this only because of how very significant Cyril's theology is for the development of the doctrine of Christology, because he has been constructed as a bad guy in the culture wars. People don't read his theology, but the whole thing is a construct. It's not based on reality that he is responsible for this great philosopher's tragic demise. Again, Alexandria, which was a seat of learning, of the fire of knowledge, had become, by the time that this illustrious woman was teaching in the city, a bit of a den of interreligious squabbling.
Look, the things that were very much complicated, much more complex than we think. We have three groups in Alexandria fighting one another: the Christians, the pagans, and the Jews. We should not forget there's this third group, big one, the Jews. So there's lots of tensions. It's a period of transition from a pagan world to a Christian world. The pagans are becoming less and less present and powerful, and they have to react. And the Christians are becoming more and more present and powerful.
After centuries of persecution, now they have the upper hand.
So there is a tension developing there. So you have this woman who is a pagan formally, but half of her students are Christians,
and they respect her. They love her. Like
we even have good reason historically to believe that she was to be baptized and she was moving towards Christianity. What I'm saying is, within a tension of an ever-growing Christianity and ever sort of decreasing paganism, you have this woman who is not as Christian enough for the Christians, not as pagan enough for the pagans, and she's in between. Now, we have, the need in social crises, we have a need of scapegoats. And this woman, perhaps because she was a woman, was easily picked as a scapegoat. And what happened with her murder is that lots of tension was released. Lots of tension. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying this in order to justify the murder, but if, she served Alexandria while she was living, I think that she served Alexandria much more through her sort of vicarious death, because she took upon herself in a Christ-like manner much of the tension between paganism and Christianity. and of course the Jews who were sort of, believing that they had, a chance now to become more prominent because the other two were cutting each other's throats. And so basically the situation became too, let's say, heated. It was a very unfortunate development that she had to go, that way by the hands of Christians. Yeah, and I believe, and others believe it as well, that the Christians were always feeling subconsciously guilt and a sadness, and in many ways, in the 6th century, when the relics of Saint Catherine will be discovered, in many ways they transposed features and characteristics of Hypatia, who died in the early 5th century, 100 years before, and in a way they merged the features of a historical person they really admired and who was in a way sacrificed with the real persona of a martyr. So Saint Catherine became Hypatia, and Hypatia became Saint Catherine. Wow. So it's another intercultural, interreligious, coexistence going on there.
That's just, you blow me away. Just want to find a look at this beautiful representation. Yeah.
So this one is the descent of Christ into Hades or hell, and it's interesting because it's about the opposite movement of Aniontes, of the ascent. This is the descent, and in the metaphysics of Kazantzakis, so to speak, these two movements, the ascent or aniphoros and the descent or katiforos, in his poetic language, encompass the unity of movement by which reality expresses itself. So it's from spirit to matter, and from matter to spirit. Very much, the understanding of Aurobindo, the Indian mystic philosopher, which we saw before. So here it's Jesus, who emblematically encompasses this descent, which of course in the theological tradition we know as kenosis. So if the incarnation is kenosis, it goes further than the incarnation when the God himself, goes into hell in order to, I would dare say, suffer the suffering of those there. So
I love the movement from the shape of the Pandokrator,
yes,
which is Christ in his
glory,
exalted state, in his glory, through to a gradual movement to falling and descent. It's the mutual register of, as you mentioned, divine kenosis, from the, let's say, pre-incarnational eternal Son and Word, to use patristic terminology, to humanity, to taking on human flesh, and also Christ's death and descent into Hades, like a mutual descent.
Yes.
Which overlap.
It's very abstract, of course. It's one of those paintings that show the competence in abstract painting that Ouresis has, and it's the background is like a river flowing. And if you recall, Mario, those paintings we have in churches, ancient churches, of the second coming and the judgment. There is at a certain side of the painting the river, the fiery river that leads into hell. So God himself goes into that river. becomes one, or he becomes all who flow in that river towards hell.
This is such a good progression. Because you mentioned this particular representation, I have photographs from Santa Maria a Santa in Torcello. When you enter into the nave of the church, it's the western wall of the church. It's covered in this layered Byzantine mosaic from the 10th century that has Christ, the Anastasis representation of him triumphantly leading Adam out while holding the cross as a standard of victory. And then it has the second coming in a middle band. And beneath that middle band, it has that fiery lake that culminates in a space just above the door to the nave, which has the heads of priests, bishops, kings, emperors, all in hell, right? And how Uros's representation represents a mature evolution of such imagery is not that the fire just comes from Christ. He himself has entered into that fire to redeem us. So this is very sophisticated. It's the next step to a more narrational depiction of those events that are said to transpire at the second coming.
And you see, descending Christ has at the same time something powerful about him. His hands, he's not been, taken away as if flashed, by the river of hell. No, he's in full control. He in a way is leading a sort of charge. I'm saying this because it's very important for Kazantzakis, who believes that God, our God, he says, is a God polemarchos. He's a, how would we say that in English, polemarchos? Like someone who fights at the front line. He's a leader in the fight.
Okay.
He's a powerful leader fighting for us. He's not some sort of
he's at the vanguard,
flimsy.
at the very front.
Yes. So within his kenosis, within his suffering, at the same time, he retains his power.
I love his outstretched hand here.
Yes.
Wow.
And this, of course, is the resurrected Christ.
Wow.
His sort of candle flame Madonna.
Beautiful.
Very different from tradition. Blue colors, hues, of course, everywhere. And the tomb. And the important thing here is that this painting, this Neo-Byzantine icon actually, encapsulates at the same time ascent as descent and descent as ascent. Is he going in the tomb or is he coming out? Is he going up or is he going down? Now I'm going to say something. My daughter goes at a Catholic school, and they were having religion and year 11, and they were talking about the transcendence and the immanence. And there are religions of transcendence and religions of immanence, their teacher told them. And I was going with my family, my daughter of course. We were following the epitaphios, the ritual of the burial of Jesus on Good Friday. And I said to my daughter, Heribi, you see, this is Christianity. It's neither a religion of transcendence or of immanence. How come? I mean, it has to be one or. That's what we learn at school. No, it's a religion of in-between.
That's right.
In-between. This is the in-between of Christianity. Transcendent, yes. Immanent, yes. But not either or.
No, both.
At the same time. But how can it be at the same time? It's an in-between. It's a new category. It's a new creation.
Look, it conforms to Chalcedonian logic
as
well.
Of course.
That's it. It's one Christ in two natures, divine, which is transcendence, and human, which is immanence.
Yeah.
And this is something that unfolds across all the registers of Christ's ministry, most emphatically exemplified in his death and resurrection. Is he descending into the tomb, which is at his feet?
Yeah.
Is he ascending out of it? It's both and, not either or.
Yeah.
Look, I think this is perhaps one of the most, because I've got my hair, look, my goosebumps, right? Uros, if you're watching this and you're listening, you have absolutely outdone yourself with this image.
Yeah.
I'm captivated by it. And this, his cloak becoming almost like a baldacchino, to use the Latin term, a ciborium, which covers the sacred Eucharistic. Look, it looks like a Latin
yes, it is.
Eucharist. My
it
gosh, mate. I'm floored by this. Vassilis. This is
formally, not colors, but formally. There's lots of history of religious art here, but done so sophisticated and so subtly that you don't even realize it. It becomes. You think that the resurrected Jesus was always painted this way, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. No.
But it seems so natural to paint him this way. So you have a whole evolution of religious art, history of art, and this guy, Uros, knows it, but he doesn't know it just with his head. He knows it with his body, and he brings it out on the canvas. Actually, this one is not on a canvas. You will be amazed. This one is on what we call in the Eastern Church, an andimension.
No.
Yeah, it's on a cloth, on the altar.
Is it used?
It's used, yeah. He has made 3 adimensia. He has given to bishops, friends, and one of them has this figure. Wow. Traditionally the adimension has the dead Christ.
Yeah, it's off the cross. It's the Aphrodite thereafter. Yeah,
he's lying on the ground, but this one has that as well. But in the middle has the resurrection. So again, he has innovated.
Amazing. But you need this. The Byzantine tradition needs this, and this is its natural evolution according to its own strengths and parameters. I'm amazed, and I cross myself honestly in the presence of such an image because it's
because Uros does this from within, not from outside.
Yeah.
And of course, these are details of the work. Here you can see while it's not finished yet.
Amazing.
Now this is a very, very interesting work. Okay, it's the birth of Aphrodite, of course.
This is the back part. Sorry, it just jumped into my mind. Is the Venus de Medici, where you see the statue. That's what she looks like from behind, hugging herself at the front. Yeah, which is it in Florence or New York? I'm not sure, but it looks like the back parts of the Venus de Medici, which is Praxiteles. So is that 2nd century BC? A Roman copy that we have from the 1st century AD features very notably. You know why I remember it? It's not because I'm an expert on these things. It's because David Lynch uses it in Twin Peaks in the Black Lodge to symbolize the fire of Eros. So David Lynch is very surrealist. I don't know if Uros knows Lynch, but he uses
this. But it's good that you mention all these stuff because this work has lots of history of art going back to antiquity, as you said, specifically Pompeii. And lots of other, he has taken into account lots of depictions of Aphrodite. Now this is done on wood, and on wood we have the material used for frescoes. So it's a portable fresco done with the ancient technique, which is very rare nowadays. Nowadays, people just draw on a wall. It's dry, and then they use, modern colors.
Acrylic paints.
Yeah, acrylic paints. Now, the ancient technique of fresco is very different. The wall is wet and absorbs the colors. So it has to be done very quickly. The first, at least, outline. So you need a master painter to do this. So in a way, Uros is reviving the ancient technique of fresco, and he's creating these portable frescoes. And hopefully he's going to do much more in this domain in the future. But it's about beauty. It's about beauty. Now it's interesting because it's beauty, it's divine beauty, the blue color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apophatic, her face is not showing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Aphrodite Urania. Urania Aphrodite.
Ah, from heaven, from the skies. Yeah, okay.
Divine Aphrodite.
Divine Aphrodite.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very,
because
very
there was also the Kini Aphrodite, which was the common Aphrodite, which was the one about lust.
Yes.
The Urania Aphrodite is about the ideal of beauty as such.
Yes.
So this juxtaposes, again here we have a different version of divine.
But he's also put together, so it's again this ascendance and ascent and descent, because it's divine because of the blue, and she is Aphrodite from the sky, but it's also the wave that gave birth to her. She's from the Afro.
Yes,
so
yes, absolutely.
It's heaven or the sky and sea intersected. Another axis mundi.
And you have, Mario, you have here, it's more evident. You have, the movement from upwards, downwards, again upwards. The cyclical, the kyklos, and of course the mundi, the axis mundi.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have, in terms of form or structure.
And it's fractal as well. This is coming out.
Yes. So you have a circle and you have a pole. Two powerful symbols, in religions.
Yes, absolutely.
And here again, now the ideal of beauty, divine beauty, is put here in order to juxtapose with the face of cosmic Christ. This is the person of the Logos, it's the person. It's not the face, it looks like a face, but actually it's just formally a face, so that the artist can denote the prosopon. The prosopon is not the face. The prosopon is a category, of the uniqueness of someone. So this is the uniqueness of the Logos. And what's the uniqueness of the Logos? Is basically, as Logos, he encompasses the total of creation.
Yes.
He is not creation, but the creation is within him. It cannot be out of him, beyond him, without him. So creation is within the person of the Logos. Now, the interesting thing is the hues, the blue, which here we have the darkest, which is divine Gonophos, Theos Gonophos, divine cloud about knowing.
Saint Gregory of Nyssa.
You will know something about God, but there's most that you will never even, get to think of.
Yeah.
In the middle of this,
which is the face of the Pantocrator, you can see the lips and the
yes.
beard, the master of all, which is the master of the cosmos again.
Yes.
The Pantocrator's face as encompassing, it's the contours of his visage. You can sort of see his eyes there, but the contours it's not simply, this is the remarkable thing about this has been the most enigmatic image for me, I think, is that he is seated at the right hand of the Father as master of all, right, localized, but he is simultaneously cosmic, encompassing the whole universe that he has given meaning, order and purpose to as the agent of creation of the Father.
Sorry. No, correct.
Yes.
Absolutely. But the important thing here is that within this universe, or this created universe, the uncreated creator takes over the heart of his creation as suffering. At the heart of creation is suffering. We just have to recall the one we have seen before, the descent into Hades. Here it becomes very, very evident. The creator, the uncreated creator, and his creation, go together, but in the middle it's the creator suffering. Suffering is a very basic idea in Kazantzakis. Life is suffering. Agon. He talks about agon or agonas. Agonas is struggle, striving. It's your personal sacrifice and suffering, and that's at the heart of reality, and that's at the heart of Jesus.
it calls to mind again, it's like bringing together, conflating the prologue of John's Gospel. In the beginning is the Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos with God, and all things were made through him, with Revelation's reference, ostensibly also by John, but at least in the Johannine tradition, of the Lamb slain from the foundation of Apokatapolis Cosmou, from the foundation of the world. But here the Lamb, the figurative reference to the Lamb, which plays out in the Paschal narrative initially in Exodus with Moses, the Lamb's blood painted on the wooden doors to protect us from death, so on and so forth, finding their fulfillment in the Lamb of God, Jesus, being crucified on the cross, his blood protecting us all from death.
Yes.
And that is the body. This is like a cosmic pietà.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is pietà.
It's pietà. So
it's a merging again of different artistic traditions, the East and the West.
because it's not the Lamb there. This is him in the arms of Mary, but without Mary present.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal.
Mary is there. Yes. If you know that this is pietà, you know that Mary is within the Logos. And the Logos, you cannot understand Theotokos without the Theos, without Jesus.
Yes,
they go together.
That's right. She's there. She's in the Logos.
She's there.
Yeah.
She's there. In the Eastern tradition we usually have, and the Western of course, we have Mary holding Jesus.
Yes.
This is where is Mary here? Jesus is holding Mary.
Yes. And then the rest of creation.
Yeah.
While he is simultaneously and paradoxically suffering in her arms.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about this is the way it has been executed. This is a very Rothko sort of technique. You see here, Rothko used these sort of borders. We have it in many of his works, and it's like a cloth on wood.
Wow.
So it's a very Rothko sort of reminiscent technique.
Okay.
In terms of how it has been executed, which again, Eastern, Western, modern, in one work, Uros is encompassing art history, as if he's just, he's sweeping, all over the place.
It's like he's playing. It's such a mastery of the material that he can bend it according to his vision.
Yeah.
This is something very remarkable. No, it is.
And he's so confident with it.
Yeah.
Now, this work is the central work, the central piece of the exhibition. It's called Aniontes, actually, this work. Now, why is it called Aniontes? Now, if we go back, and see these sculptures here, which are made by Uros. This is Terirem.
Explain Terirem, please.
Terirem is a melody in Byzantine chanting, which is a repeated motif, and it's supposed to be the language of the angels. So Terirem, it goes like this for lots of minutes, and you are immersed in basically a melody, and it has this repetitive and gradual culmination. Now this is the ascent. Terirem here is in the middle of the exhibition because it encapsulates the idea of ascending. Now, ascending from where? From the land, from the earth. We shouldn't forget that we are in Australia.
That's right.
This is the Aboriginal elder, and this is the Aboriginal woman. It's, basically granite, Australian, Blue Mountains granite.
Wow.
The materials are, from the land here, and they are the people of the land. The first circle, you start from Kazantzakis, you start from the land. And the second circle is the people of your race, where you belong. And this is, the start, the alpha. And all the way civilization leads to the omega. Up there is the omega, just to recall, as you said before, Revelation.
And Tila Deschaden's omega point as well, huh?
Yes, of course.
Wow. Phenomenal.
Here we have again the cosmic Christ, but in a much more abstract. Again, you see the face of Christ is galaxy-like, has a sense of galaxy, Milky Way, and it's has a certain harmolipi, sweet, bitter, sort of, emotionality. So it's one of the abstract masterpieces of Uros, like the descent into Hades and the yet ascending higher we have seen.
Yes.
This is the paron. It's called present. Our present. And this is the individual of modernity.
Wow.
What sort of individual is it? It's an individual, heading somewhere. We see the back of it. Has no face. It's going. Where is it going? No one knows. It's just going. There's no directionality anymore.
Yeah.
But it has a halo, black one. Why? Because it's an anti-saint, in the sense that it has sacralized itself. Modern individuality, the modern individual is sacred.
Yeah, on his own terms.
On his own terms.
Yeah.
At the same time, they have this galaxy-like body, which is symbolic of what? It symbolizes that the individual of modernity is the center of the universe.
Wow.
So we are centers of the universe. We are the sacred in itself. What Paul Hillas would say, the religion of the self.
Yeah.
So here you have the religion of the self.
And we wonder why we suffer.
And we wonder why we suffer.
Yeah.
But again, it's in blue.
Yeah.
It's in blue.
It's only the logos.
Yeah, it's in blue. Even as such, it's in the blue. Here we have some zoomings in order to show, Uros wants to show that even though, it's so exalted, self-exalted, sacred, center of the universe, at the end of the day, the individual, the modern individual, starts from the ground, from the minerals. Nothing has changed. It's still raw as the first humans.
Which is to bring it back to the central piece.
There.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
it. That's it.
Let me just flag it very briefly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And this one again is about the modern individual.
Very symbolically arranged,
yes.
Everything here. Very
this
much.
Is again about the modern individual. Now the modern individual here is Kazantzakis himself. It's his head. It's his head. It's his head. Now this is called Planet Kazantzakis. Planet.
I love it.
Yeah. Blue.
Yeah.
But at the same time, very weary. It's very weary. Now, planet is a Greek word, of course. Planitis means someone who moves. Kazantzakis always moved from philosophy to philosophy, from one obsession with another, from one
country to another as well.
One country. He was a traveler. He was a seeker. He never stopped. He was a planitis, moving sort of entity. So this is Planitis Kazantzakis. Kazantzakis suspended, which shows that the modern individual at the end of the day stares. What is the modern individual staring at? Is it staring at its own trajectory? Is it visualizing the next station, the next travel, the next journey? There is a certain weariness and a certain stress effect. It's not a depiction of a person
at ease.
Content.
Yeah. No, it's not. There's some kind of
tension.
Restlessness.
Yeah, restlessness. And Kazantzakis was very sincere about that. He never wrote that he reached, perfection.
Yeah.
That he always thought of himself as being, struggling.
Yeah. It's amazing.
This is a girl from Shiraz. Around here you can see there is Arabic script, but it's written in Persian, Farsi. and it's verses from Hafiz, the poet of love, par excellence. And as you can see here in Greek, Ouresis writes, "Ιστορεί με έμπνευση." He depicts with inspiration το ποίημα του Hafiz, the poem of Hafiz, which is την συνάντηση της Ελλάδας, the meeting, the encounter of Greece και της Περσίας and Persia, σε ένα βλέμμα, in one gaze, ουράνιας σιωπής, of heavenly silence. Who does all this? Ο της Ανατολής ζωγράφος, the painter of the East, Ελληνοσέρβος, Greek Serbian, Ouresis Todorovich, 2014. So he decided to put this in the exhibition because Kazantzakis was a traveler. He wrote lots of travelogues and amazing works, basically. And he went all over, the globe. He loved the Middle East. And this is to show his connection to the Middle East and how through this connection, the Greek and the Persian come to a sort of dialogue and talking to one another in his work. So this is intercultural, let's say, comment on his travelogues. And here we have another very powerful piece, which of course is in itself has a sort of surface sexual, side, but it's much more than that. It's an integral whole of a unity, a harmony,
a syzygy almost.
Yes, you have the male and the female. There is no violence, but there's a certain movement and balancing and a dancing sort of effect.
Yes.
It's Odysseus and Penelope, according to Homer, or Odysseus and Helen, according to Kazantzakis' own Odyssey.
Wow.
And of course, if we recall Savitri by Aurobindo on the opposite side of the exhibition, this could be Savitri, okay? And this could be, of course, Odysseus on some new sort of journey into the Indian subcontinent. And you have here you have the intercultural connection of Greece and Persia. Here you have the intercultural connection of Greece and India. Now, a very interesting thing is that here, again, the history of art, we talked so much about history of art.
Yes.
Here you have something that reminds one of pottery, ancient Greek pottery, and you have the satyrs, chasing the nymphs.
That's right, you can see in his face the angular kind of, he looks like Pan or,
So a satyr is chasing a nymph. But at the same time, those who have seen temples, Hindu temples, have most likely, seen the very sensual figures on the temple.
Absolutely, yeah.
So here you have, at the same time, a modern rendering of an ancient Greek pottery, a crater, let's say, but at the same time, it's the facade of a Hindu temple. Some sort of, narrative story scene of a hero chasing some other heroine, in Mahabharata or Ramayana or something.
Wow. It's a confluence of various traditions. And can be read in a multi kind of valent way, definitely.
And that's one of the things I wanted as a curator to bring out, the interculturality, the multiculturality, the cross-culturality, how we have these osmosis and syncretic, recreations of ideas, cultures and experiences, hierophanic experiences. So we don't forget our so much cherished category.
That's right.
And here we finish with Saint Dionysius the Areopagite, the one we started with. Why? Because he was the theologian, of course, emblematically encompassing the entire Byzantine tradition, with which Kazantzakis was talking. He was reading the mystics. We know from works like Symposium, from Askitiki, the Saviors of God, and the report to Greco. We know that he mentions Opos Leo Vizantinos Siggrafeas, as the Byzantine, writer says. And he's referring to whom? To someone. But this saint here, this guy here, stands for all of them, because he was the most important of all of them. And at the same time, he was the theologian of divine love, divine eros par excellence. And so it's only pertinent to put him, next to images that depict eros.
Yes. And his, what did he say about divine eros? Just to give the
divine eros basically is the descending of the divine into the created order. That's how the uncreated creates by descending as love. This descending movement is his creation, and of course everything wants to go up to him again out of love, the same love. Everything participates in this love, descending love, but it turns it into an ascending movement. Yes. So again, as a friend sent me a message early in the morning, via Facebook, a very Dionysian, he said, exhibition. He's an expert on Pseudo-Dionysius. And yes, this is a very Dionysian exhibition, because Dionysius the Areopagite, in his own way, of course, much more traditional, much more, let's say, filtered through the Christian experience, the genuine Christian experience, talks about the ascending and the descending of the Creator and the creations.
Oh, that's amazing.
I hope the friends of Terra Symbolica will I hope that the friends of Terra Symbolica will really resonate with all this exhibition. People coming and having a look have been very positive and very, let's say, encouraging as to the whole endeavor.
It's a fantastic endeavor. I couldn't recommend it enough. I was going to put this up a bit later, but I think I'm going to try to put it up with your permission.
Whatever you...
Tomorrow, to get people here.
Okay.
More people, as in people have come. It was packed last night. You can see the remnants probably of the wine bottles and everything else.
We had, let's say, 70, 80 people in this room, which was packed.
Amazing.
And young people. Young people.
Fantastic.
Half of them at least were like 20 to 30.
Wow. That's
that age range,
Yeah, I mean, for an event that's happening in Sydney, you won't find anything that draws on so much history and culture.
No, it's very hard.
It's very hard to pull something like that off here, and it encompasses everything from the Indigenous Australian experience to Byzantine iconography, to ancient Alexandria, to Hindu philosophy, to the fall of Adam and Eve and Christ Pandokrator at the Omega point as the Logos. So it's all here. Please come and visit before it closes. When does it close?
It closes on Sunday, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on Sunday. We're here very early in the morning. It's about midday. 10 a.m.
we open 10 and it's every day 10 to 6. But on Sunday we close and everything finishes at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on Sunday, the 27th. 27th of April. Thank you, Vassili. Thank you, friends. Take care for now.
Christos Anesti.
Alithos Anesti.